So late last year, I got into cloud gaming. I did a video on it. You can check it out if you haven't. But I was talking about the PlayStation Portal, and the short version of it is I really loved that device, especially for what it did. I was able to play my PlayStation games on the go, and it streamed relatively well, especially like on coffee shop hotspots or my mobile hotspot. It always seemed to work. Even to the point where a lot of times I forgot that I was actually playing over the cloud. I felt like I was just playing right off of a PlayStation device with the games installed on it. And I enjoyed that experience so much, I actually wanted to further that into other aspects where if you watch this channel, you know I'm more than just a PlayStation gamer. I play on every platform. And because of that, I wanted something that I was able to play my Xbox games as well, or even play on PC. So I went to see what other options were out there, and the one I did find was the Logitech GCloud. And that's what we're gonna talk about today, especially if you're interested in cloud gaming. Now, hence the name, this is a cloud streaming device, but it is able to do a little bit more than the PlayStation Portal can. It actually does have built-in storage, and you can actually expand the storage with something like an SD card as well, where you can get more space out of it. Now, I personally did not need that because in reality, the GCloud is, for the most part, a glorified tablet. So what that means is it has the Google Play Store on it, and you can download a bunch of Android apps, and that is why you may want to actually be able to put a SD card in there. It also has the ability to run a bunch of game emulations, and if you're into that, the GCloud is a cool device. So it does have a little bit more than something like the PlayStation Portal does. But I will say, when it comes to the screen, the sound, everything about the Portal just seems like a more premium feeling device. The GCloud does have a very cheaper, plasticky feeling to it. And the screen is a little bit smaller if that matters to you, but the screen is smaller. I think it's 7 inches, but I'm really going off the top of my head. I really don't fully remember. But here's the thing, even with the PlayStation Portal being more premium, I find myself gravitating to picking up the GCloud significantly more than I have with the PlayStation Portal. And here are a few reasons why. The thing about the GCloud, which is probably the most important thing, and I already referenced it, is the fact that I can play games from almost any platform, minus Nintendo, because again, it's freaking Nintendo, unless you do emulations, but we're not even going to get into that. But like I said, with the GCloud, I do have the ability to play games via Game Pass or stream and connect to my Xbox, or I have the ability to go ahead and connect to my PC with Steam Link or use GeForce Now. You have a bunch of options on top of having the ability to still connect to my PlayStation 5. But the one thing that does suck about it is, unlike the Portal, I don't have the ability to connect to PlayStation's own streaming service. So if I do want to play a PlayStation game, it has to be one that is physically installed on my PlayStation 5. Now, with having that connectivity across all these different platforms, obviously those would be the ones I want to jump for. Now, if I had to take one handheld cloud streaming device with me, obviously I want to pick the one that's going to have almost my entire game library compared to the one that only has one platform on there. And I will say, I was surprised that when streamed with the GCloud, it actually streamed relatively well, especially when it came to playing online games. Games like Marvel Rivals and COD and Star Wars Battlefront and Overwatch or Destiny, you name it. All these games worked relatively well with playing online, even going against other people. I was surprised at how well it actually worked with the GCloud. It seems to work better when using things like GeForce Now, but it streamed relatively well. So you can effectively take this. And here's the thing, I even tried playing this out and about off of my mobile hotspot, and I was able to play online without, at least I didn't notice, any type of lags, disconnect, drops, or anything like that. Now, it does happen. I have been in scenarios while I was at home and it just randomly disconnected, dropped, lagged, whatever the case is. But for the most part, it seems to work really well. Now, the one thing I will also mention too is if you do decide to take this out and about, keep in mind that if you're playing and it's relatively sunny out, it's almost near impossible to see to the screen. The screen does look really well when you're indoors or under shade. That's when the screen is its best. But if you're outside in any type of direct sunlight or just a bright day, it is going to be very hard to see. And that's something that you may want to keep in mind, depending on if you're interested in purchasing this. I even turned up the system brightness and I turned up the game brightness as well. And it was still extremely hard to see a lot of games. So like I said, keep that in mind if you do plan on having a handheld outside. Things like the Portal was a lot better to see on than the GCloud, but for someone like me, I don't really play outdoors with this a lot, but if you do, that is something to just keep in mind. On top of the fact that one of the biggest things that I really loved about this device is that it does not lock the Bluetooth down like the Portal does. So for those who don't know, if you want a PlayStation Portal and you want to have any type of Bluetooth headphones, you have to buy PlayStation proprietary headphones that work with their PlayStation Portal. Whereas the Logitech GCloud, you can just pretty much pair any headphones that you want with it and it works totally fine. And that's what I really appreciated, because I don't want to buy headphones for just the PlayStation Portal when it's something that I consider as more of an attachment not like a main device that I'll be playing games on. The GCloud doesn't have as good of speakers as the Portal. They are fine. They are downward firing. So if you're someone that maybe plays in the bed where it's resting on your chest or something like that, it may be a little bit muffled, but it does have a 3.5mm headphone jack that you can plug into the bottom of it. Or like I said, you can use those Bluetooth headphones as well. In the normal scenario, it seems to work really well. The other thing that I definitely want to also mention too is if you guys are PlayStation gamers and want to use this, certain game compatibility may not work with this. And when I noticed that is, I wanted to test like the gyro in this, like compared to the PlayStation Portal. And as far as I can tell, it may not have any, or I didn't have the feature turned on, or whatever the case may be. So when I try to play a game like Astro Bot on here, the PlayStation 5 version of the game, and you actually try to, you know, have to tilt the screen back and forth, nothing happened. It didn't register that I was moving the screen back and forth, whereas on the PlayStation Portal, it does that. So unless there's a setting that I don't know about, there could be compatibility issues with certain PlayStation games. Now, that's not a huge feature, and I don't think a lot of big gamers are playing that. I'm just pointing that out there for the people that may be interested in picking this up and have a PlayStation. Just keep that in mind. Outside of that, the device does everything that it needs to do pretty well. And again, it is an Android tablet, so you can download other things on this device as well. The PlayStation Portal, again, across the board, a much more premium device than this one is, but I still play this more often, like I said, for those reasons. The compatibility when it comes to the wide range of different platform support, when it comes to using any type of headphones I want with it, this is great. The problem with this device is still surprisingly $300 freaking dollars, and I can't tell you why this is a $300 device. Does this device work well and do what it needs to do? Yeah, for the most part it does. There were some days where this thing just had the worst network connection, and maybe it wasn't the device, maybe it was just where I was, maybe it was my home internet, but there were some days where I just didn't even really feel like playing this because of how blurry the quality was. But that seems to be relatively rare, and I've had this for a few months now. It only happened every blue moon, but it did happen. But the thing about it is, for the most part, this device always seems to run really well, but not well enough where it's worth $300. When you start getting into the $300 price range, now I'm starting to look at Steam Deck prices. And in reality, the Steam Deck would be a better option than this. And the reason being is because you can pull the Steam Deck out at any point in time and play your game no matter where you are. If I want to play a game like Cyberpunk on an airplane fight, then I have the ability to do that, where this device is pretty much useless unless I want to stick to mobile games or emulations on here, which some people may be fine with, but someone like me, that's not what I want these devices for. So to say spend $300 on this is kind of rough for a normal scenario. Now, the one thing that I will suggest doing is if you find it on sale or you can get it used online through Amazon, Best Buy, Open Box, something like that, this actually may be a good option to pick up for you, because I've seen this device as low as $200. And when you start talking about that price, then it's more justified getting this for that $200 price tag. But again, $300 for this is way overpriced. And the fact that Logitech still has not brought this down all these years later is extremely surprising to me. Now, you do have other options out there. You do have things like the Backbone or Razer Kishi, I think it's called, where you can connect a controller to your phone and just plug your phone in that way and play like that. And I actually have something like a Backbone. I actually have the Backbone here, but I really don't care to use things like that. Me personally, I just like having a device that's dedicated towards gaming, especially if someone calls or texts me. I don't have to actually leave out of my game. I can just keep playing. Now, granted, it is more convenient just having, you know, one device that just does everything. And it is cheaper because you can get like a Backbone for like $100, for example. But like I said, just having a device dedicated to that, I just pull it out and I can play my games, put it up, and I'll be done with it. That's why I still personally lean to something like this. And this is a rare time I'll probably ever say this. I would get this device, but only if you get it for closer to that $200 price tag. The most I will probably pay is $250 for this. And you have to be someone that does have relatively good internet or in a really good coverage area. I've seen people online talk about that they've used this with something like Starlink and it worked really well. And I haven't noticed any issues with this as well. I love being able to turn GeForce Now on this thing, and I go into the settings and put everything on the highest ultra setting when I'm playing PC games. And when it works like it's supposed to, it feels like a Steam Deck. The couple of benefits that it has over the Steam Deck is, one, I don't have to worry about storage size, and I don't have to worry about updates. Pretty much as soon as I turn the game on, it runs. I don't have to worry about having to do an update or download. The other cool thing that this does have the capability to do is you can actually plug it in and dock it and put it on like your screen on your monitor. Now, you're still going to see the game being played on here as well, But if you do want to plug it into a bigger display and have like a portable console where you can hook up to your other rooms in the house or other monitors, it does have the capability to do that, which things like the PlayStation Portal do not. So it is kind of feature packed, still not worth $300, but it is feature packed nonetheless. So personally, I will be playing this a lot. I'm curious to see how much I'm playing this after the Switch 2 comes out. I'm very curious to see if that's going to take more of my time away. But one of my favorite features about this is having that Game Pass subscription on here. Being able to play like all the games. This is even good for someone that maybe is on the PlayStation side or Nintendo side, but you see all these games that Xbox is constantly rolling out. I mean, like this, within the past few months, you've had Indiana Jones, Doom the Dark Ages. I know Tony Hawk's about to come out. Expedition 33, that's not an Xbox game, but it did come to Game Pass. Ninja Gaiden 2 and then Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming out soon. You have a lot of games that you can play right from this device. So it actually is pretty cool. When the Switch 2 comes out, will it take away some of my time? I don't know. I feel like I may still be surprisingly on this more, but you know, who knows? We'll see. The real question is, when Xbox partnership with I think Asus comes out later this year, will I be leaning towards that? Because again, that is going to be a device where everything will be built into the device and not streaming just over the cloud. Though I'm sure knowing Xbox, they'll probably still have a cloud option where you can stream to it with that. Holding the device in the hand, again, doesn't feel as good per se as the PlayStation, but it still feels really good. I can still find myself playing this for a huge amount of time. It does have some nice grips on the back of it, and it just doesn't feel bad. Again, doesn't feel premium, but doesn't feel bad. It has enough heft to it, but it's not too heavy where I get tired of holding this. But that's just my thoughts on the GCloud, what I think of it. Only pick this device up if you can get on sale. $300 for this, I just cannot justify or tell you guys to pay that expense for this. Logitech needs to drop the price for this, $50 at least, but in reality, they ain't dropping to $100 because, again, $300. Comment down below, what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about cloud gaming? Is this something that you're interested in? You know, if you're a PlayStation gamer and you can get this for a dirt cheap price, this is a good entryway because of all of its cloud streaming options. You can play Game Pass, you can use GeForce Now, but you don't have to own the games, or you have to have a streaming subscription. Again, if you're just heavily into the PlayStation ecosystem, that's all you play, do not pick this up. I would suggest getting the PlayStation Portal, because even though this has more features, if you're not interested in anything outside of PlayStation, the Portal is definitely the more premium device, even though you do have to have their own proprietary headphones, but you probably are going to play them or get them anyways. That may not matter to you. But if you have any inkling onto what's going outside of the PlayStation ecosystem and you just want to play all those other platforms, like I said, like Xbox and PC, this is a great device and a good one to get into. Can't keep emphasizing this enough. If you get it cheaper than what it's listed for right now. But anyways, comment down below, how do you guys feel about it? I'm interested to see what you guys think about the GCloud. And as always, I will catch you all in the next video. See ya.